Russia is rebooting a secret submarine base that's been dormant since the Cold War, and that's only the beginning. Aliens, covert secrets, underwater lairs. Get a load of all the craziest military bases you can find for yourself right now on Google Maps. Russia's submarine reboot. The Soviet Union is home to all kinds of over-the-top Cold War-era secrets, and now Russia is digging into those forgotten secrets as part of a renewed war effort. The latest blast from the past is a secret underground submarine base in Balaclava, Crimea, which Moscow is reportedly dusting off and bringing back into action. If there's one thing Russia loves more than denying stuff, it's reviving old military relics like their vintage cars. Once upon a time, this base, ominously known as Object 825-GTS, was the kind of place that only Soviet bigwigs with top-level security clearance could enter. Then, after the USSR called it quits in 1991, the place was abandoned, looted, and eventually transformed into a museum. Families once roamed through its halls, staring at decommissioned submarines and Cold War relics like they were looking at dinosaur bones. To be honest, that sounds kind of cool. Add in a few hot dogs and you can count me in. But now, according to pro-Ukrainian activists, the party's over and the museum is turning back into a military base. They've spotted floating barriers at the harbor entrance, possibly to block marine drones, and are convinced the Russians are giving this old lair a second life. Talk about an extreme home makeover. You won't see this on HGTV. Built in 1961, Balaclava's James Bond villain-worthy design involved tunneling more than 1,800 feet straight through a mountain, because what's cooler than a hidden lair inside solid rock? Soviet engineers wanted to make sure their shiny submarines and their crews could survive a direct nuclear strike. This place was meant to withstand the apocalypse. My place can barely withstand a windstorm. Ukrainian sources first reported suspicious activity here in 2022 when they spotted construction work near the entrance. Now, with Ukraine's next-level marine drone attacks wreaking havoc on Russian naval bases like Sevastopol, it makes sense that Russia would want to stash its ships somewhere a little more explosion-proof. According to defense expert John C.K. Daly, if the base is being used, it's probably not for submarines. It used to be specifically for subs, but today's Kilo-class submarines are too wide for the base's outdated setup. Oof, awkward. Instead, it's more likely that surface ships are being parked inside, trying to avoid Ukraine's drone fleet, which has been one of the bigger surprises of the war, and probably Russia's biggest recent headache. I want to know what's next. The return of Soviet spy pigeons? A KGB-themed TikTok? Forgotten Nazis in Antarctica. Just when you thought the internet had run out of wild conspiracy theories, someone on Google Maps discovers what looks like a mysterious door in Antarctica, and boom, the tinfoil hats are back on. Could this be the entrance to a long-lost Nazi bunker? A secret US government base? The home of ancient ice giants? Or just a really, really unfortunate camera glitch? It all started when a sharp-eyed Facebook user posted an image from Google Maps showing a shadowy square-shaped mark in the middle of Antarctica. Naturally, instead of assuming it was just a hole in the ice, the internet jumped to the only logical conclusion: Nazis. The post went viral faster than a mono outbreak at your high school, reigniting the ever-popular theory that surviving Nazis fled to Antarctica after World War II and set up a secret underground military base. Nothing says new home like an uninhabitable frozen wasteland. Believe it or not, this theory isn't entirely made up out of thin, freezing air. In 1938, Hitler did send a German expedition to Antarctica, but it wasn't to build a post-war hideout. It was to harvest whale oil. When you're planning world domination, smooth, well-oiled machinery is a must. After the war ended in 1945, people started wondering, what if the Nazis didn't all get caught? What if some of them escaped and built a fortress under the ice, complete with flying saucers, laser weapons, and probably the world's first gluten-free cafe? Adding fuel to the fire, German U-boats were spotted near Argentina after the war, giving birth to the ultimate escape story, one in which Hitler didn't die in a bunker, but instead packed his bags and moved to Antarctica. Scientists have been trying to kill this theory for decades. French researchers analyzed Hitler's teeth and skull fragments and confirmed he died in 1945, not in an underground ice cave, Not in Brazil under a fake mustache, and definitely not sipping espresso on the dark side of the moon. He died in Berlin in April, exactly 80 years ago this year. Unless he managed to have a body double so convincing he tricked French scientists. Anyway, getting back to Antarctica. Is this indeed the entrance to a Nazi bunker? Marine geologist Colin Summerhays rolled his eyes so hard he probably pulled a muscle. He pointed out that these Nazi base rumors started due to the Germans' brief experiments with high-tech aircraft and missiles, which later inspired a whole Nazi UFO craze. When the war ended, these stories got even wilder, with people believing Germany's top scientists fled to Antarctica with secret flying saucer blueprints and a one-way ticket to Mystery Land. If it isn't a Nazi bunker, then what is it? A government base? A gateway to a lost civilization? Some believe it could be the entrance to Agartha, a mythical underground city filled with ancient beings. What about a really big ice cave? It's less exciting, but also probably the most accurate answer. Another possibility is alien headquarters. Maybe E.T. is chilling in an icy subterranean home away from home. Where do you think the mystery door leads? Let me know in the comments. And now for a quick break. But first, I wanted to give a shout out and big thank you to Lind and Katina Martin for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like these. A spy hub in the land down under. You'd think the middle of Australia, home to kangaroos, scorching heat and the occasional deadly spider, would be a great place to hide from prying eyes. But nope. Smack dab in the middle of the outback not far from Alice Springs sits Pine Gap, one of the most important US spy hubs in the world. And you can see it as plain as your neighbor's Speedo on Google Earth. Officially, Pine Gap exists to support national security and monitor military developments, which is government speak for we're totally spying on everyone, but please don't ask questions. Thanks to leaked NSA documents, shout out to Edward Snowden for spilling the beans, we now know that Pine Gap is doing a lot more than just watching missile tests. Think of Pine Gap as the big brother of the Southern Hemisphere, except instead of just watching, it's also listening, tracking, and probably judging your taste in music. This place is a major ground station for US spy satellites, which means it helps control and monitor high-tech surveillance equipment floating around in space. According to leaked intel, Pine Gap has been running missions with code names like M7600 and M8300, which sound less like top-secret operations and more like budget smartphones. These programs use spy satellites that sit 20,000 miles above Earth, covering vast regions including Russia, China, the Middle East, and Africa. In essence, anywhere the US wants to keep an eye on. If there's a cell phone signal, radio wave, or military communication floating through the air, Pine Gap probably knows about it. Ever seen those weird white drones that look like golf balls on steroids? Pine Gap has 38 of them. Each one houses a powerful radar dish pointed at the sky, working around the clock to intercept signals. Located beyond a security checkpoint, this high-tech fortress is staffed by a mix of NSA, CIA, and US military personnel, plus their Australian counterparts. It even has a section known as the Geo Pit, which sounds like a new nightclub but is actually where experts geolocate people and devices worldwide. That means they can pinpoint the exact location of a cell phone in real time, something particularly useful when you're launching drone strikes. Wait, this base helps drones strike people? Oh, you bet it does. In 2013, reports surfaced that Pine Gap was playing a key role in US drone operations, those same strikes that have taken out high-level terrorists, but also, unfortunately, a fair number of civilians. Intelligence experts say the base collects real-time tracking data that can be used to guide drone attacks in places like Yemen, Pakistan, and Somalia. And how do they find their targets? According to a former drone operator, we're not going after people, we're going after their phones, hoping the right person is holding it. Wow, that sounds like a terrible way to make life or death decisions. And it has in fact led to major ethical concerns, with critics arguing that Pine Gap might be helping commit war crimes. People have argued the Australian government needs to come clean about what's happening inside the facility. Here's the thing about Aussie land. For over 100 years, Australia has been one of America's most loyal allies, signing on to military agreements, surveillance programs, and probably some very one-sided beer bets. The US gets access to Pine Gap, and in return, Australia gets strategic influence. but tensions have started to rise. Former Australian diplomat John McCarthy has warned that the country may need to rethink its alliances, especially since the US is currently beefing with China, Australia's biggest trading partner. The situation is even more awkward when you throw North Korea into the mix. If the US ever does launch a strike on Pyongyang, Pine Gap will be directly involved, whether Australia likes it or not. And let's not forget that Pine Gap is a prime target in any major conflict. If things ever get really heated, guess what's going to be high on an enemy's hit list? Yep, this big ol' spy base in the middle of the outback. No one knows what the future holds for this secret base. It's one of the remotest and most important strategic facilities in the globe. Check it out on Google Maps. Top secret military technology exposed. Google Maps is the ultimate ruiner of secrets. The US military has been working on an experimental stealth drone called the Manta Ray, a futuristic underwater craft designed for long-range deep-sea missions. Nobody was supposed to know about it. Then along came Google Maps, the biggest spoiler around. Google Maps caught the Manta Ray drone chilling at a naval base in California, completely exposed for the entire internet to see. So much for being a covert deep-sea stealth machine. Maybe next time they should test it somewhere that isn't visible from space? Just my 2 cents. Eagle-eyed users spotted the high-tech vessel docked at Port Hueneme Naval Base in California, instantly making the formerly hush-hush project go viral. The satellite photos revealed a sleek, futuristic craft that looks exactly like its namesake, a manta ray. While most military vessels are big, bulky, and look like they mean business, this thing stood out like a UFO in a Walmart parking lot. So what exactly is the Manta Ray? It is an autonomous underwater drone designed by Northrop Grumman for the US Navy. It's meant to stay on the ocean floor for extended periods, to operate in low power mode to barely use energy, and to be completely uncrewed and modular. It can be easily taken apart and repaired or reconfigured for different missions. According to Dr. Kyle Werner, program manager at DARPA, the Manta Ray is capable of efficient buoyancy-driven gliding to move through water. It's basically a high-tech sea Roomba that just vibes around the ocean until it's needed. The Manta Ray project was launched in 2020 to give the US an advantage in long-range deep-sea missions, but the fact that everyone now knows exactly where it was parked raises some questions. Are there any real military secrets left? Is anything hidden in this digital world? Maybe the most important question of all is, does anyone at the Pentagon realize Google Earth exists and that internet sleuths are constantly scanning for weird stuff? The public may not know much about this mysterious underwater craft's exact capabilities, but one thing is for sure. Everyone and their grandmas knows where the military keeps it. Great job, Google. How to out-Google Google. 2 men have outsmarted Google and discovered a top-secret US military base. When Google won't update its satellite images, sometimes you just have to do it yourself. For 8 years, Google Maps users looking at Tonopah Test Range, a highly classified military base in southwestern Nevada, were stuck with outdated, blurry, old-school images. Naturally, the internet assumed this was intentional and that the government was hiding something. Engineer Dhruv Mehrotra and writer Brendan Byrne weren't about to let a tiny thing like government secrecy stop them. Instead of waiting for Google to catch up, the duo decided to out-Google Google by leasing their own satellite images from a private company. The company is called Apollo Mapping. For the totally reasonable price of $1,984.50, they provided updated images of the Tonopah Test Range. However, there was an issue. Mehrotra and Byrne couldn't legally show the images to just anyone. Since the leased images were technically only available for their company, Mehrotra and Byrne had to get creative. They hosted an exclusive invite-only event in New York City, where visitors had to sign paperwork declaring themselves temporary employees of iBeam, the non-profit where Mehrotra works. Once people signed up as employees, they could legally look at the satellite images of the secret US base. Mehrotra and Byrne assumed that the lack of updated imagery was government censorship. But Google, after seeing their investigation, responded with a much less exciting explanation. They had apparently just forgotten to update the area. A Google spokesperson claimed the company doesn't censor areas like Tonopah, they just license satellite images from third-party providers and only update areas that people look at. Because nobody was looking at Tonopah, it was never updated. Maratra and Byrne's scheme worked. They did get clear recent images of the base, but there didn't prove to be a giant conspiracy happening. Tonopah, located 70 miles from Area 51, is a highly classified U.S. military testing facility. According to Sandia National Laboratories, it's used for testing weapons, aircraft, and probably things the government isn't telling us about. Here's a fun fact. Tonopah is where the US developed the first stealth aircraft, the F-117 Nighthawk, which is what Batman would fly if he joined the Air Force. The Tonopah Test Range mystery wasn't so much a cover-up as it was Google forgetting to update their maps. But thanks to two guys who refused to accept outdated pixels, everyone got a fresh look at one of America's most secretive military sites. Unfortunately, whatever is happening at Tonopah is happening below ground and inside bunkers that no public satellite can peep through. Until Google Maps gets X-ray vision, the real secrets will remain hidden. If Google did get X-ray vision, which building would you peek through first? A secret base in the African desert. Amid the blowing sand of the Sahara Desert is a secret military base surrounded by landmines. It's the kind of place you'd lose a leg to enter, yet for all its mystery, the base was discovered by an eagle-eyed Google Maps user. The base is hidden near the Libyan border in Niger, and by hidden, I mean it's completely out in the open, with a landing strip, buildings, and vehicles all clearly visible. You can't exactly hide a whole military outpost in the open desert when there are satellites circling the globe. Turns out this mysterious base is called Aerodrome Madama, and it's a French military airfield that has been around for years. It's located at an old French colonial fort built in 1931, which was later repurposed into a military outpost. The Nigerian military maintains a garrison of about 100 troops there. In 2014, the French government announced that it would station helicopters and 50 French soldiers at the site as part of Operation Barkhane, France's ongoing mission against insurgent groups in the region. Since 2015, France has ramped up its presence at Madama, with up to 250 soldiers stationed there. Operation Barkhane, which sounds like either a high-stakes military mission or a brand of fancy cologne, is France's largest overseas military operation. There are more than 4,500 troops spread across Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad. With a budget of over $600 million a year, the operation involves everything from combat patrols and intelligence gathering to training local forces and assisting with regional stability. The military base didn't turn out to be a groundbreaking discovery. It is a secret, but it's not a very well-hidden one. Aerodrome Madama is a reminder that Google Maps can reveal some fascinating things, even if world militaries would rather those things be kept invisible. Project Horizon, the secret lunar outpost. Imagine being posted at a military base on the moon, secretly spying on your fellow citizens through a telescope in a lunar crater. It sounds like a crazy idea that will never come to fruition, but what if it does? What if the US military takes over the entire moon? It's a plot that's been around for many, many years. If you thought the moon was just a peaceful rock floating in space, think again. In 1959, the United States Army had big plans for the wheel of cheese in the sky. They wanted to build a fully functioning military outpost on the lunar surface. They called it Project Horizon, and it was kept a secret for years. Only now, thanks to a declassified blueprint, has the public been clued into this wacky piece of Cold War history. They said it was a conspiracy that the government was trying to take over the moon. Well, here is the proof that the army was planning to do it. This is one of those cases where one declassified piece of paper completely proves what had previously been seen as a crackpot theory. The Cold War space race wasn't just about science. It was about who got to plant their flag and maybe a few landmines on the moon first. The establishment of a manned base of operations on the moon has tremendous military and scientific potential, says one declassified document. The first nation to set up shop on the moon would gain unparalleled strategic, scientific, and political influence. Given the heated rivalry with the Soviet Union, the US wanted to make sure it got there first. Think of what a nuclear arsenal on the moon would do. It would be like pointing a loaded gun at planet Earth. Nukes could launch from the moon directly to anywhere on our planet in an instant. But Project Horizon wasn't just about weapons. The proposed lunar outpost would serve multiple purposes. It would be for developing moon-based surveillance of Earth and space. The base could act as a communications relay. Plus, there would be scientists conducting scientific research and experiments. The base would be used as a staging platform to launch more missions into even deeper space. There would be no need for an orbiting space station if there was an outpost on the moon. On June 9, 1959, the US government decided that establishing a lunar base was of great importance to national security. Project Horizon was born out of growing concerns that the Soviet Union might set up its own outpost first and claim territory for itself. A moon base would serve as a critical stronghold, preventing the USSR from gaining a dominant space presence. First, the Soviets would take the moon, then they'd claim Mars. The Red Planet would be in the hands of the Red Army. At the time, the US and Soviet Union weren't just thinking about sending astronauts into orbit, they were planning far ahead, with blueprints for the militarization of the moon and beyond being drawn up. With rapid advancements in propulsion, electronics, and space medicine, the idea of a lunar military base didn't seem so far-fetched. One chilling statement from the Project Horizon documents makes it clear how high the stakes were. Here's what the document says. To be second to the Soviet Union in establishing an outpost on the moon would be disastrous to our nation's prestige and in turn to our democratic philosophy. Although it is contrary to United States policy, the Soviet Union in establishing the first permanent base may claim the moon or critical areas thereof for its own. Let's say the US got to the moon first with their building materials. How would the base even function? Is it possible to build a tiny settlement on the moon's surface? The outpost was designed to be large enough to support at least one astronaut initially, with plans to expand to 10 to 20 personnel for sustained operations. Researchers also envisioned a self-sufficient base, minimizing reliance on Earth for supplies. All right, that's reasonable. Some farms, some grow houses for food, maybe a really big air purifier. But the lunar outpost would also need protection from potential Soviet attacks. Along with greenhouses, the US wanted to arm the base with a proposed arsenal of Davy Crockett rockets armed with low-yield nuclear warheads, along with modified Claymore mines capable of puncturing spacesuits. Nothing cries peaceful space exploration like booby-trapping the freaking moon. While Project Horizon never made it past the planning stages, the fact that it was technologically feasible in 1959 is mind-blowing. Over half a century later, with today's advancements in space technology, imagine what's possible now. Thankfully, international interest in the moon is ramping up again, and it's all thanks to NASA's Artemis program, China's lunar ambitions, and private companies aiming for commercial moon bases. The idea of a permanent lunar settlement is more relevant now than ever before. Would you volunteer to live on the moon? If you want to learn more about top-secret military operations, be sure to subscribe and check out some of the other videos. A secret base in Pyramid Lake? A mysterious shadow in Nevada's Pyramid Lake has sparked a wild investigation. Some say it's a military base hidden underwater. Some think it's nothing but an old boat. Let's check out the details and you can come to your own conclusions. Eagle-eyed users spotted a strange dark shape lurking beneath the water of the lake. Instead of assuming it's just a rock, a shadow, or literally anything normal, my friends on the net jumped to the only logical explanation. It must be a top-secret underwater military base. The shadowy formation is divided into 4 uneven sections and doesn't seem to be connected to the actual pyramid-shaped rock that gives the lake its name. After the image was posted on Reddit, internet sleuths began to speculate. According to them, the shadow is either an underwater facility, a lost military boat, a random old boat that's been chilling at the bottom of the lake for decades, or an ancient archaeological site. One Reddit user pointed out that there are several weird military bases near Pyramid Lake, including a naval underwater warfare center. Yeah, I bet you didn't know the Navy had an underwater research base in the Nevada desert. Try to make sense of that. It's not crazy to think there could be another, more covert base that's completely underwater. But what exactly are they researching underwater in a place where there is no ocean? It's like researching submarine aerodynamics in your bathtub. Of course, not everyone is on board with the secret base theory. Some people suggested it could just be an old boat that sank. Meanwhile, someone else completely ignored the shadow and dropped this nugget of wisdom instead, saying, "There is some good cutthroat fishing there. I used to camp at that lake." While half the internet is debating whether this is a secret government operation or an ancient alien site, this person is just reminiscing about a chill weekend fishing trip. This mystery is still ongoing and doesn't appear close to being solved. So in the meantime, here are some bizarre facts about Pyramid Lake that have nothing to do with conspiracies or the government. It stood in for the Sea of Galilee in the 1965 biblical film The Greatest Story Ever Told. Archaeologists believe that humans have lived around the lake since 9500 BC, with tools, weapons, clothing, and even mummies found in the area. Some might say mummies are even more interesting than a blurry Google Maps shadow. The deadliest missing base. In an age where Google Earth can show you everything from your neighbor's badly parked car to a goat standing on a roof in rural France, you'd think the entire planet would be visible at the click of a button. But nope. There are 3 places that Google won't let you see, no matter how hard you search. One of them happens to be a base with the capabilities of destroying the world. I introduce you now to Vocal Air Base in the Netherlands, a site rumored to house 22 of the deadliest nuclear bombs in the world. It's one of the only places Google is keeping totally under wraps. Vocal Air Base, located near the town of Vocal in North Brabant, is one of the Netherlands' major military airfields. Officially, it's home to the Royal Netherlands Air Force and a trauma helicopter for medical emergencies. Nothing to see here, folks. Just some fighter jets and a helpful little ambulance chopper. Now move along and don't ask any questions. But according to declassified reports, leaked government documents, and a former Dutch Prime Minister accidentally letting his mouth get away from him, this airbase is also storing US nuclear bombs. Each one of Vocal's atomic warheads is allegedly 4 times as powerful as the nukes dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. These aren't just some boisterous fireworks. They are world-ending weapons of incredible destruction. Former Air Force pilot Steve Netto claimed in a book that around the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, 50 B-2B nuclear bombs were secretly stashed at Vocal, ready to be deployed by Dutch aircraft if needed. Since then, the US has reportedly updated its arsenal, replacing those Cold War relics with 22 861 bombs in 2008. Those are bombs that, if rumors are true, could turn an entire city into a slightly larger Grand Canyon. Remember when God incinerated Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible? If he had used conventional weaponry, he would have used 861 bombs. They are city killers. Despite all the classified secrecy, government denials, and Google Maps playing peekaboo with Vocal, investigative journalists from Bellingcat managed to expose some serious security flaws in 2021. The soldiers in charge of guarding nuclear weapons were using publicly available flashcard websites to memorize sensitive information. What's the launch code for this highly classified nuclear vault? Hold on, let me check my flashcards real quick. What a facepalm move for these guys. For years, Dutch officials have refused to confirm or deny the presence of nuclear weapons at Vocal. But thanks to leaked US diplomatic cables, multiple reports, and NATO itself confirming their existence in 2019, it's pretty safe to say the nukes are there. Still, you won't see them on Google Earth. Don't bother zooming in on Vocal Air Base. You won't find anything, not even a crumb. A new Area 51 discovered. If there's one thing the government needs, it's more underground storage space for UFOs. A secondary Area 51 has been unveiled not far from the original Area 51, and it's allegedly brimming with alien secrets. A self-proclaimed ET expert and full-time Google Maps detective has sparked a fresh wave of Area 51 conspiracy theories. His name is Scott Waring, and he is claiming to have discovered a newly built underground base near the infamous military site. According to Scott, a man whose job title might as well be Chief of Looking for UFOs on Google Earth, this mysterious site is 55 miles northeast of Area 51. Scott said it could be a massive hidden facility for extraterrestrial tech. One secret alien base in Nevada plus a shadowy secret under Pyramid Lake weren't enough. Waring, who runs a YouTube channel dedicated to uncovering alien activity, proudly announced his discovery with all the enthusiasm of a man convinced the government is hiding aliens in a basement somewhere. But Waring wasn't about to rely on just Google Maps, which he said blocks out a lot of stuff on the government's behalf. He switched to a different, more enhanced satellite image from a different source that he insisted confirms his theory that the base is for holding UFO technology. For proof, Waring points to the massive sliding doors that open in the desert. They look like compartments in a UFO parking lot. If I were going to park my intergalactic battle cruiser somewhere, this would be the perfect spot. Adding to the mystery, Waring also noticed mounds of sand covering parts of the complex. His conclusion is that the government is burying evidence of more secret experiments. There are small hills of debris like impromptu graves for busted alien technology. Unfortunately, this is all suspect, and no one has any evidence of what is truly happening in the Nevada desert. Waring thinks there's a massive expansion of Area 51 for extraterrestrial storage. He's convinced it's a top-secret project involving UFO reverse engineering, and that below the surface is an underground tunnel system. What do you believe is hiding in the Nevada desert? Could the government truly have alien technology that they are reverse engineering far below ground? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching. Be sure to check out lots of other videos from the channel.